It's my pleasure to join with Commissioner Basil Sagos today of the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. We have Matt Franklin, who's the Director of Emergency Management for DEC, Dave Traver, who's the head of Region 3 for DEC, which is this region, and he's also in charge of responses for spills, such as oil spills. Lieutenant Michael Buckley and Lieutenant Meg Filmer, and Mr. Larkin from the State Police. I thank them all for their time today. On Friday, there was a situation at Indian Point where there was an apparent problem with one of the heat transfer mechanisms, and it discharged oil. Exactly how much oil, we're not sure. At that time, the Indian Point company, Entergy, placed booms in the discharge canal to try to contain the oil. The question we were interested in today was, did we see oil getting past that discharge canal and oil entering the Hudson River? We did not see any oil apparently being discharged into the Hudson River, so that is the good news. But there are two questions here. One is the discharge of the oil. The second is the difficulty in the cooling mechanism for the turbine, which can be a more serious problem. That cooling mechanism has been taken offline, and that turbine is now operating with a secondary cooling mechanism until they find out what happened with the first one to cause the discharge of the oil. We did notice a number of abnormalities that Commissioner Sagos will speak to you about in a moment. In general, this plant, since 2011, there have been over 40 extraordinary incidents. Since 2011, 40 extraordinary incidents. We've had tritium leaks, we've had steam leaks, we've had a fire in a transformer, we've had turbine failures, pump failures, weld failures, high levels of radioactivity in groundwater. So this plant is no stranger to dangerous situations, and that's why we take each and every one as seriously as we do. These are dangerous times. It seems like every week there's another emergency, there's another unthinkable event. We had the train crash in Hoboken last week. Week before that, we had the bombing at Chelsea. So we have our hands full, and there's no doubt that there is a series of dangerous events. Indian Point, if we ever had a major problem at Indian Point, that might be a problem that we couldn't solve. So my only answer to it is total vigilance. And when we hear of any problem on the plant, we respond, and we respond directly, and we respond expeditiously. Frankly, I take more comfort in seeing the situation with my own eyes. I live in Westchester. I raised 3 children in Westchester. And there are many nights I thought, what would ever happen, God forbid, if something really went wrong at Indian Point. So we take nothing for granted. With that, let me turn it over to Commissioner Basil Sagos, and then whatever questions you have, we'll answer. Commissioner?
Thank you, Governor. I'll just say briefly, today was illuminating. We wanted to ground truth some of the measures that had been put in place on Friday to control what was a relatively small, we were told, amount of oil that had entered the canal. The measure at that point was a boom system, these floatable booms that absorb oil. I think what we saw today was it raised some serious questions about both the placement of the booms and the maintenance of them over the last couple of days. The booms were actually placed at the very far end of the canal system, downstream of the discharge point into the Hudson River. So that raises a significant question as to if oil got into the water, at any rate, it would have gotten into the canal because of the location of the booms. One of the booms is actually ripped off as well. And I have to talk about the condition of the wall. There's a wall that separates the Hudson River from this canal where all the water is discharged from the plant. The wall was in pretty rough shape. not only is it pretty deteriorated and rusted, but there are several sections of the wall where you have holes, literally discharging literally discharging water into the river. That would defeat the purpose of any boom system that you put in place. So this is important for us to understand, for DEC's perspective, to understand what happened, what measures were taken, and now it's on us to see whether or not it can be improved. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks. Thank you. As the Commissioner said, you learn quickly in these jobs, just question everything, right? The Entergy said there was an oil discharge. It was in the discharge canal, and they put booms out, and that was going to catch it. As the people who are on the boat ride saw, the booms are past the discharge pipe that empties that canal. So it doesn't really do much good to have the booms past the point where the water is entering the river. And as the Commissioner said, the wall itself was in bad shape. It had a number of leaks, which you could see, which also defeats the purpose of putting up booms if the wall itself is leaking before the oil ever gets there. So that's why, frankly, I like to see with my own eyes. And sometimes when the answer sounds too simple, it's because they don't understand the extent of the problem. And that's been my experience with Entergy a number of times. So Commissioner Sagos, DEC, will address these issues with Indian Point first thing Monday morning, and then we'll take it from there. But just whenever there is an incident at Indian Point, we are going to respond because this is nothing to be trifled with, and this is nothing to play with, especially in these dangerous times.